shit. Well, that's great. That's great. Because that means you're there. You're in that dark night. You're in that low point. And that, you know, if you have this greater framework, this greater understanding, then you know that something else is coming. You know, as they say, it's always darkest before the dawn. That 4 a.m. is that special, the most silent place. But of course, the hero's journey is not where it ends, right? Self-mastery only gets you so far. You know, the king wants, you know, as Tom Robbins talks about in Jitterbug Perfume, as soon as the king's got a gray hair, whoop, time to sacrifice him. We need to keep things fertile here. Give me another young king. We still see this in pop music, right? Good luck breaking into pop music at 40. I'm gonna keep trying, but it's probably too late for me. So what comes after self-mastery? You look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from the simplest things, sleep, air, food, into social recognition. This is you're getting into the mythical dimensions of society. You know, the bounded cell of the city and the newly emergent diversity of the guilds and castes, social identities, roles, and rules. Then you move out of that into that self-mastery of modernity and that self as agent. I declare what I am. I determine my own values. I am the king. I am the queen. And from that place, where is there to go but down? This is evinced in the mythological circuits surrounding the solstices, right? The rise and the fall of the sun is the archetype of the solar ego. But then we move out of that into the linear time and say, now we have a history. We can identify a beginning and an end, and we can give time and direction. But again, the self-mastery only gets you so far, and beyond self-mastery, they identified a new layer, a higher rung of human need and human development, which is self-transformation. Again, looking at the self as defined in relationship, you begin to realize that everybody else, these other people that you so diligently asserted are not you in order to carve out a space for yourself in identity space, that these folks are actually, in some sense, only experienced by you as abstractions created by your nervous system, created by competing neural motifs in your brain as a way of distilling and abstracting the dizzying diversity of your sensory experience into something coherent that you can understand and navigate. And so everyone around you is at least one half you. This is the virtual reality of your human brain that you're experiencing here, which is why, that shadow work is so valuable, and why I invite everyone here to meditate on that during the eclipse or around the eclipse, this notion that the shadow is inextricable from the thing itself. The shadow that it casts is a part of it. Peter Pan becoming unsewn from his shadow is evidence of his psychological immaturity, his lack of awareness. The fact that he realizes he needs it, and he has to sew it back on, is promising, auspicious. Because all of us, again, we only experience one another through this holographic representational matrix that is presented by these collaborating / competing unconscious processes of our body as itself a sort of expression of the entire ecosystem, in the way that Alan Watts talked about how the ocean waves and the universe peoples. Or the way that recent cybernetics research suggests that the web of a spider is an extension of its nervous system. Or the way that Gregory Bateson said that the cane of a blind man is an extension of his nervous system. Where does your mind stop, by the way? Feel into that. How far out can you feel? Where is the edge of your experience? Conduct that phenomenological experiment sometime. Where do you end? You know, if we sit here, as Dennis Genpo Merzel Roshi, the pioneer of big mind process, of voice dialogue therapy, says, assume the role of all of these different characters in your inner coterie, your inner pantheon. The skeptic, you know, the wounded child. All of these gods, you know, these archetypes exist within us. And once you have learned that you can move fluidly between them, suddenly the grip releases and you have access to these transpersonal identities like big mind. Okay, it's, you know, I've played 15 roles today, and now I can find it just as easy to step into the role of Buddha. And let's engage this voice in a dialogue. Where does big mind end? Ha! I don't know. Where do I end? Where do I start? You know, this is the inclusive space into which we're moving as a species. But, you know, so we move into, you know, out of the modern rational mind into what Jean Gebser called the integral mind, where rather than merely divorcing ourselves from all that which came before us, we realize that who we are is sort of like built out of these things, that rational thought is built out of the narrative and logical associations of mythical thought, and that the mythical mode of consciousness is made out of the pieces of magical consciousness in the same way that you get, you know, cells, tissues, organs, you know, organisms, and then the superorganism of society. So you can't merely divorce yourself from all of this stuff, and what's left is to embrace all of it. A truly cosmopolitan identity in which we are residents in the politics of the cosmos. We acknowledge ourselves as standing on an object with a horizon. It's weird, I'm hearing the echo over there. It's messing with me. Anyway, so the integral mode of consciousness and its experience of time is pronouncedly different from this linear narrative modernity. You know, that we're either moving from the Big Bang into the heat death of the cosmos on the one hand, or on the other hand, that we are, which is, by the way, is really just a scientific recapitulation of the story of the fall and original sin. Really, it's just, you know, you look at some of the earliest texts, you know, the Sumerians were talking about how the end is near because everything is in decay. It's like, well, that's, you know, the decay, the ever-blooming, blossoming, ever-dying thing is a part of this. Everything is falling apart at the same time it is coming back together into new forms. You know, again, Terence McKenna says nothing lasts, but nothing is lost. Right? Conservation of energy, momentum. And so the integral mode of time, we move out of this narrative, linear mode, and into a landscape of time, a geography of time, where, as we know from both psychological and engineering research, we have fairly solid metastatistical analysis suggesting that there are events in the future impinging upon this moment, causing this moment, just as there are events in the past impinging upon and causing this moment. And we move out of this sense of cause and effect to an omnidirectional matrix of co-causative interdependence. So imagine the eternalist mode of time, that all moments are happening simultaneously. Julian Barber, quantum physicist, talks about this in his book, The End of Time, which, full disclosure, I have not read. I'm not one of those people that pretends to read books and talks about them on YouTube. Pretends to do drugs and talks about them on YouTube. Watch out for those people. Julian Barber, though, says in The End of Time that in a sense, quantum physics can't be understood unless you understand all moments as occurring simultaneously. You know, and that what we recognize as actual is emerging out of this cloud of potential, right? And then also, you know, more recently, there's an understanding that it may be the case that space and time themselves emerge out of a web of quantum entanglement, and that how distant something is from you in space or time is actually nothing other than a measure of how intimately